This is your directions for your Choropleth mapping assignment. In order to start it out, it's good for us to revisit what is a Choropleth map. And I'm using a website put together by Nicole DiLorenzo and Amy Duger to help explain that. You can see here the Choropleth map indicated on the right is showing Albuquerque, and Choropleth maps are popular thematic maps that are representing data through some different shading patterns or symbols that are predetermined by the geographic areas they're in. So in the case of Albuquerque, it looks like it's done by neighborhood. So these choropleths are good at utilizing data, and they're representing the variability of what they're measuring. So we're going to have you do an assignment where you're going to be measuring the number of targets in the United States. Forward along to a section that I wanted to go over with you called map classes here. So we're going to get to that right now. So as we talked about before, these choropleths deal with data that can be represented numerically, and it must be standardized, can't be raw. And there's two formats for making a choropleth map. On the right-hand side, you can see one is unclassed. In other words, there's a scale on the right that says from high to low. And then there is a classed map of Texas that is showing the numbered legend. Now, the choropleth that we're going to ask you to create is going to be a classed choropleth map where we're showing, based on the number range, it's going to change the color of the state that you're going to be filling in. The last point that I wanted to make for you is simply this. Choropleths are common ways to represent social and economic phenomena in an easily digestible way. It covers large amount of data over large geographical areas without too much confusion for the reader. However, sometimes readability on a choropleth can have some drawbacks because the data must be in a ratio standardized and relate to a defined physical area. So much of the specifics of the data become lost. So when you look at the choropleth for targets, you're going to see it's colored by state, but it doesn't really represent where in the state those targets are located. For example, in Minnesota, we have a high number of targets compared to other states, most of them located in the Twin Cities area. So let's take a look at the map we're going to ask you to create. Now, when you download your template for the choropleth, you're going to see a blank version of what I have in front of you. And I've done a few things already just to help you get started. In addition to the map, you'll see on the file that we've also given you a list of the number of target stores per state in the United States. And the states are the postal abbreviations. So if you're not familiar with the abbreviations for a state, I suggest you just go to Google, type in postal abbreviations, and you'll be able to easily locate a list of all 50 states and what their postal abbreviations are, so you know which states are which. What we do then, in order to create our classed choropleth map, is we're going to need to establish ranges first. So if you look in the upper left part of your map, you'll see categories and 5 boxes. We're going to create 5 different ranges of the number of targets per state. And so the darkest at the top, the black, is going to represent the 10 states that have the most targets. The blue dot should represent the next set of 10 states that have the most targets. So it would be, if you ranked them, it would be states 11 through 20. The green dot is going to represent the third tier of 10 states in number of targets there. The red would be the fourth, and the yellow dots, or the yellow states, will represent the 10 states with the least amount of targets. Again, you're going to use the numbers here to help you out. So in Notability, what I did was I went to this target stores per state, and I know that I wanted to get the top 10 states, and the color I was going to use for that was black. So I went to the highlighter pen in Notability, looked for the black highlighter, and started scanning through the list for the 10 states that had the most targets. California had the most at 236, and as I got through the list and looked carefully, I found that number 10 was Georgia with 54. All the other states in between there, Florida, Illinois, Minnesota, Michigan, New York, Ohio, Texas, Virginia. They were all between 54 and 236 targets. So once I identified those 10 states, then I had to go to an atlas, or you might have to go to an atlas. I guess I didn't have to because I know where they are, but you may or may not know where these states are. And if you don't, just use an atlas to help you. And I placed, I just shaded those states in black. I was going to say I placed a dot there first and then went back and shaded them in as I changed the thickness of the pen that I used to color in the states. But it didn't take too long, and in some ways it was a little bit therapeutic to have to color in the states. Your task is going to be to complete the next 4 ranges. So do that first before you start coloring states in. Figure out which next 10 states would be the blue ones. So states that have number of targets 54, less than 54, the next 10. So you might start with, it looks like Pennsylvania's got 51, right? So there's one of them there. And then it looks like Arizona has 48 and Colorado has 41, so on and so forth. So find the next 10 and have those states be blue. Then after you've done that, you can go in and probably color those states. Then find the next 10, have those be green, color those in, find the next 10 states, those are the red ones. And make sure you're putting down the range of targets. So from how many to how many are in there. Also at the bottom, you want to make sure you include your name. It's important to put the date on your map so we know when it's created. And your title is Target Stores in the United States. If you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to reach out. Shoot me a message, send me an email, something along those lines. Good luck.